questions. So this is the unofficial applying for unemployment webinar. To be clear, this is not an official SAG-AFTRA item. We are all SAG-AFTRA members in various boards, committees, groups, or just awesome members like the rest of you, and coming together to support each other and share expertise. Who we have on this panel, we have, my name's Evan Bass. I'm a New York-based person, but moderating this evening, or I don't know what, yeah, late afternoon. We have Giselle Gilbert on the call. We have Alan Starzinski.
Hi, everybody. I
haven't seen his
in 2 weeks.
his comedy routines on Instagram. Highly recommend. And we have Katie Von Till as well.
Hi guys. I brushed my hair, unlike Alan, but I've not showered in 2 days. So.
Well, I didn't brush my teeth.
I just want to give people an overview of the plan for the webinar. Our panelists are going to present on information. You can look in the chat feature of this webinar at the beginning. There's a reference docs, Google Docs that are posted that you can view. Those are going to be referenced. Some of them will be shared on the screen and go through them, but you will have access to view those just for reference going forward. Also, the SAG-AFTRA COVID-19 Hub link is there. It is being updated daily, if not hourly, by our union, and it's got a huge amount of resources. And once the union does have full knowledge on something and it is verified, they post it there. So highly recommend just tabbing or bookmarking that page to go forward. How this webinar is planning on working, we're going to have our panelists talk and present lovely things and information. And then we're going to open it up to the questions. If you have questions, just post them in the Q&A, and then we're just going to go through them. I'll read them aloud, and our panelists will answer them the best we can. That is what I got. So without further ado, I'm going to be quiet and pass this over to Giselle.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us. I can't believe we already have 95 people here. That's crazy.
We're at 100 now.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think what we're going to focus on is individual filers. I know a lot of people have questions about S-Corps. If you do, we will try to get to those at the end of the Q&A, but I do want to focus this on individual filers. And also, you know, we're going to be giving a lot of information about the new changes that have just occurred on Friday from the stimulus package. We don't have total confirmation on how everything will work. I know on the EDD website right now, it's not even showing a lot of the new changes because, as Evan said, it's been less than 24 hours since some of these changes went through. But yeah, I'm just asking, be patient. You know, if you don't need to file today, like if it's not crucial, I would say wait a couple days. I'm going to wait a couple days and see how things play out because things are going to keep changing and they're overloaded. I found out that normally they have about 10,000 applications a week, maybe. And right now they're at over 80,000. So they are at capacity. They're trying to get through everything as fast as they can, but there will be a longer than normal waiting period. So just keep that in mind as you're trying to file, that things are taking longer than normal. Yeah, also, all of us are volunteers. None of us are experts. We don't work for the EDD. We don't work for SAG. So we're just going to be able to answer things as best we can. We might not have the answers, and I'm the first person to tell you I don't know something because I don't want you to go away with incorrect information. So I'm going to pass it off to Katie because I know she wanted to say a couple things.
Yeah, I just want to say a couple of things, everybody. Giselle pointed on it. We are not staff members of anything, not of EDD, not of SAG-AFTRA, nothing. We are actor leaders and activists and just trying to disseminate information the best that we can and as correctly as we can. So we're not experts. If you need to speak with your tax professional or a financial professional, I suggest that you do that. But there is a lot to be said, honestly, for just figuring this stuff out yourself. I've been on the unemployment train, as I like to call it, since 2006, and I could have been on it prior to that, but didn't know. I found out information from other actors that this was something that we could and should do when we are out of work. This is not some people might have a, sort of negative connotation toward unemployment insurance. Now, granted, now we're also talking about unemployment insurance as well as the additional monies that we're going to be getting from the CARE Act. So that the CARE Act money is additional money, but normally, even with just unemployment insurance, that is money that would have otherwise gone into your pocket that your employers pay on your behalf, and it's your money to access at any time you are out of work. So even going forward beyond where we are right now with this pandemic and the care package, I want you to think of unemployment insurance as something that you always need to have your finger on. And keep in mind also, it's so much easier than it was back when I started in this, when everything was paper. It's all online now, and you really can figure it out. It's fairly user friendly. It's not too legal easy. There's a lot to be said for just sort of, stepping step by step your way through these processes and figuring it out yourself. So just please have a little bit of initiative as well if you can. I know that, I'm as such a visible person, I get texts and emails and Facebook messages and DMs on my Instagram from actors every single day asking me questions. And there's only so much time for me to do that without panicking about my own life. So just remember, like, a little bit of trial and error, just get out there. The information's out there. Don't be scared. Unemployment is there to help you. If you have to call them and talk to somebody on the phone, be nice. As my general rule is, they're not dicks. They're here to help you, and they want to help you get your money. And there's no screwing this up, really. I mean, it's pretty hard to screw it up. So just step by step, get forward, and we'll get through this. All right, that's it.
Thanks, Katie.
Sure.
So I kind of have a general overview of where to start, and it's who qualifies. So traditionally, only W-2 employees could qualify. You had to be a W-2 employee to get unemployment. Traditionally, if you were some independent contractor who received a 1099 at the end of the year, you would not qualify. But because of the CARE Act, which is the Corona something saving fund, whatever the actual name is, I can't remember the name of it is. 1099 employees are eligible. And there is a very cool graphic that I want to show you, which is this flow chart. Let's see if it'll open. It will. Let's see if I can screen share this. Desktop share. Okay, technical difficulty. Just bear with me for 1 second. I have to open my system preferences. Great, so it won't be able to do that until I quit. I'd have to quit and do it again. Evan, do you have the ability to screen share that for me? So the first one I want to do is called the AEMI flow chart. I think it's really important to start with that. And for everyone that's watching, you can also find this on the Union Performers Facebook page. It's live streaming there on Facebook. Great, so this is this wonderful flow chart that I got from SAG-AFTRA. It's got all of the different unions on the bottom that have shared this with their members. And so it goes through like what your different scenarios are. You can be a W-2 employee, a 1099 employee. Ooh, hello. Nice to see you. So as you can see, if you're a 1099 worker or self-employed, you can apply for the SBA Paycheck Protection Loan. You can apply for a loan. You can also file for state unemployment insurance. If you are a W-2 employee, if you are both a 1099 and a W-2 worker, or if you're a student and long-time unemployed worker, you can file for state unemployment insurance. From that, there is a chart that is also in the Google Drive right now that is a breakdown of California. I might as well just pull it up right now. And that should be, no, maybe benefit amount. Yes, so you can access this on the Google Drive, and it's basically like in a quarter, because the way that the EDD calculates everything is in quarters. So January through March, April through June, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have to look at how much you make each quarter. So if you've made, I think this goes up way higher than I thought it did. Go down, scroll down really quick. I think the max limit right now was like 450. That might have changed this year. But basically, if you make around 10,000,
No, it's still 450.
it's still 450 because this has a different amount, which is interesting, and this is for 2020. But I don't know why it's higher than that. But I know that if you make about $10,000 in a quarter, you should qualify for max unemployment insurance, which would be $450 a week. Now, what the
like 12 now or something like that.
yeah, it's like way higher, which is
like
great.
12 something.
So what the CARE Act does is if you were to get max unemployment, let's say of 450, just for the sake of this conversation, then you'll get an additional $600 on top of that. So that's $1,050 per week you will receive. I don't believe there is another application that you have to do. It's just the EDD normal application that you would do, and they'll automatically include that $600 on top of it. So that's when you'll file for that on the EDD website. Once you've exhausted that unemployment insurance, or if you have a current claim open and that's about to be exhausted, you can apply for the 13-week pandemic emergency unemployment compensation. What is unclear to me right now, and Katie, you might have different information than me, is whether that's available to be applied for right now or if it's still in the works. I'm pretty sure it's not available, right? Like it's not on the EDD website to apply for it.
So my experience with extensions in the past, we've actually had them in the past, is that they've happened automatically. If you have a claim currently open, they simply roll it over. Granted, this has just come out, this just passed on Friday, and that was federal, and every state is different and it takes time. So, you know, California is now having to try to figure this all out, how they're going to do it. But my experience, it was back during the recession in 2008, we had another 13-week extension, and then it simply rolled over. So I'm hoping that will happen again, that if you have an open claim, it will simply just keep rolling. Granted, we don't have that information yet, but that was my experience in the past.
I can second. Then they even had an extension on top of that.
The extension. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so it was like you had unemployment for, I think I was on it for 2 years.
Yeah, what I'll say though is that the last time that I had unemployment, which I should be able to apply again April 1st, when it expired last March, I was not able to get an extension. They stopped doing extensions a couple years ago.
Yeah.
This was during the recession. This was during the recession of like 2008, 2009.
Which we might have again, so.
Yeah, another thing I want to talk about is if you have an opportunity to check why you are, a box to check why you're unemployed. Normally we check laid off due to lack of work. If there's anything that ever says COVID-19, that is the reason you are out of work. That is the only reason you are out of work, because our business is shut the F down because of this. So if the box to check available says COVID-19 or pandemic or whatever, check that box. But again, as far as the, if you just had an unemployment expire, I'd wait a few days and then reapply to get the 13-week extension. If you currently have something open that's about to expire, my guess is it's going to roll over.
One thing also to add is part of the new bill is that your unemployment doesn't kick in when you get approved or when you contact it. It kicks in now from when you last had the work. So when you lost the work. So if you haven't had work for a week and you're applying, say, this week, and you didn't have work last week, once you get approved, you will get the payments back pay from. Okay.
Are you sure that's the truth in California? Because it's not my experience that it's retroactive.
That's new for this bill. The CARES Act.
Oh, for the bill. Okay.
Yeah, the CARES Act. It changed it just on Friday, so that that's one of the things that they announced is one of the changes.
But it goes back to when?
Say again?
It can't go back when. So
related to COVID. So things lost from COVID work. So if you're applying now for it because of lost work from COVID, if you can't get through because of the phone lines or the internet stuff, or you do an internet application and then they say call and you can't get through for several days, you won't lose anything because they know they're overwhelmed, so they built it into the new CARES Act.
Right.
So Ev, can we switch to the CARES Act notable benefits? So let's just go over these really quick. This is everything that's in the CARES Act. I got this from the union. Thank you, union. And I want to just point out again that I know there are people that are not SAG-AFTRA members that are on this call, and you're more than welcome, but everything that we talk about will be focused on SAG-AFTRA members and the ways that we're paid and how this will affect us. So again, you will get the $600 per week through July 31st. You'll get extended unemployment benefits for an additional 13 weeks after that. You will, if you were not a traditional employee, you still can apply and you still will get assistance. I think everyone is also getting about $1,200 per person. So if you have 2 adults in a family, you guys will get $2,400 as long as I think your collective earnings is less than $150,000 per year. For individuals, it's about $115,000, $112,000. You get some funding for children, yay. And I know that there are small business loans that are also happening. I know there were a couple of questions about that on the New York call. If you are a small business, you can apply for loans that will be forgiven. Okay, and then I don't know if there are any Q&As especially about that, but if not, then we can move on to the next slide. The DGA.
Well, I think let's run through all this stuff and then we'll go to the Q&A at the end. Just make it smoother.
Great. So the DGA SAG-AFTRA.cic cares blah 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 blah. I'm really.
And just a reminder, if you want to look at these referenced, they are posted with links in the chat section.
So this goes over all of those bullet points that we just discussed, but in more detail. It has a lot of great information about how much money you will receive, the pandemic unemployment assistance, the 39-week program. I think that each state is a little bit different. We're focusing on California. There might be people who are calling in from outside of California. I think it's between 29, like it could be up to 29 weeks or up to 31 weeks or up to 36 weeks, just depending on the state. So this is a lot of good information. I don't really feel like reading through every bit of it because I think people can read it, but I think we hit all of the big bullet points. Katie or Alan, do you have anything in addition that you want to talk about specifically for the CARES Act?
No, just remember that it's just got passed on Friday, so give it some time and figure out how it's going to play out. So just be patient.
Yeah,
okay.
I've gotten a couple of pretty much the same thing. Just to also reiterate, I've gotten a couple of texts and emails and stuff from people asking about the unemployment and about all this new stuff. It not being on the website. I mean, again, it's also a government website, so I'm sure that they're going to be speedier than they usually are, but it might take a little bit. It might even take. It's probably not going to take a month, but it might be like a week or 2 before things are kind of popping off over there. So
I just wanted to add to that. So just to review how legislation works in our country, especially related to taxes, you'll recall this sort of from the GOP tax bill that was passed like in December of 2018, and it took a number of months to come into effect of how to use. So once the legislation is passed, it needs to be translated by the IRS, by the staff that work for the government on how that legislation then becomes practice. And so it was just passed on Friday. So we know the benefits that come out of it, but it will take the government a little bit of time to then translate that because they have to figure out what this sentence meant or what this thing means for actually being applicable, and then building that into the system. So just essentially, there are things that will come up, and one of the things that is great about SAG-AFTRA is when they do know the information, they post it, but they won't be able to post it until there is 100% the application of this legislation in effect, so that they can tell you. I do know that staff has been already started being trained on the CARES Act. So the things that the government does know, they are already training the staff. And as soon as they're done with training, they'll be able to answer questions and help. And if there's any specific things that we don't touch on here or even in our questions. The union has staff members that are expert in this. Most of our staff is working on all the other things that COVID-19 has brought up. But you can always call the union, and there are specific people there to help out. As the CARES Act information comes out more and more, they're going to transition more people in legal to be able to cover that. But give them time for it to be processed by the government and for the training to happen before they have full answers for you.
And I want to just point out too that from what the conversations I've had, the EDD is actually trying to get people who have retired to come back and help with their overload of work. They're scrambling to get people to help them because they're so overworked and overloaded. And also just to make a note that the union isn't actually able to answer legal or tax info. They can only help you with how to apply, because I think there's some issues with that legally. So there was something else I wanted to say. Yeah, go ahead.
There's something I want to say before we get going. So do you have an example of my spreadsheet in the Google Drive?
I don't. You didn't send it to me.
Okay, I'll send it to you now. The biggest thing I can tell you right now is before you apply for this or applying for anything, or just as a general rule as an actor, you need to start keeping very good track of your earnings, so that when you're every 2 weeks, when you're applying for things and certifying for benefits, that you have a running thing. So if you are not using some sort of spreadsheet or accounting software to keep track of the money you make or don't make in detail, then you need to start doing that now. I'm going to go ahead and send Giselle an example of my spreadsheet that I use, and she'll upload that to the Google Drive doc. But if you're that type of actor who, gets your check in the mail and deposits it and doesn't keep your stubs or doesn't make note of things, this is the time. This is your wake-up call. This is the time for you to change and start putting all that stuff into practice and start treating your business like the business that it is, and start running some books. So
yeah,
I'm gonna send that
we have a whole we'll
right
talk
now, and we'll upload it.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later too. So I think the first thing that you need to do is there's an EDD checklist on the EDD website, which is edd.ca.gov / all of these other things, which is in the drive on the unemployment webinar sort of like doc. It's kind of hitting all the bullet points of what we were going to go over, and it's sort of stream of consciousness, but there is a link there. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can copy and paste that link. Can I do it? I can. I'm going to copy and paste this and put it in the chat. All panelists and attendees. Right there. And it's going to tell you everything that you need in order to apply, which is really helpful because there is information that you should acquaint yourself with before you even get going. I know that some people are getting kicked off of the EDD website right now because they're taking too long to fill it out, and then they have to start over, and you don't want to do all that. So if you prep, then things go smoother. You don't have to restart. You're more efficient. Everything's groovy.
And that prep is creating a spreadsheet. That prep is creating a spreadsheet because it's going to ask you for, I don't want to take over for you, Giselle, but that get your ducks in a row so that when it's time to apply, you have it all ready.
Yeah, so things that we need to apply, that you'll need to apply will be your last employer of record, your company's name, supervisor's name, address, and phone number. When was your last day of work? Were you laid off, or did your job end? And I know that some of us have side gigs. We don't all have the luxury of being able to survive off of our acting work. So even if it's a waiting job, if that was your last job and you were laid off, you should put that you were laid off due to COVID. Okay. Then what were your gross earnings in the last week you worked, beginning with Sunday and ending with your last day of work? You should gather information and pay stubs for your last employer of record and all employers from the last 18 months, as well as dates of employment, gross wages, hours worked, and hourly rate of pay if applicable. If you are not a citizen, you will also need your employment authorization documents, so just keep that in mind. If you are a citizen, I think that you can just use your social security number or whatever else. those are the things you'll need to apply. Let me just pull this back up.
I got a quick question. Hey, say I've applied and I've been getting my paychecks or been getting my unemployment deposits. What do I do if I get a residual check? Huh?
Are we there yet?
Are we? No?
We're not there yet. Giselle says we're not there yet, Alan. Don't
I
jump
already
the
know.
gun.
I was just, okay, I'm talking out of turn.
You're muted, Giselle. You're muted.
Why was I muted? If you go to the Google Drive, Alan, you'll see the breakdown of everything we're going to discuss today in order. Isn't that great? So application process. How do I start an application? Visit the EDD website to begin. You'll be able to hit apply. There is a link again in the document. One thing that you should make note of, and I guess it's less relevant now because you'll be getting that additional $600 on top of whatever minimum you make. But you should make sure that when you're going through, it's going to list all of your employers that have actually sent information to the EDD. At the end of the quarter, they send information in, and sometimes it takes an extra month. So like, let's say the quarter ends in March, EDD might not receive the information till May. So it could be backlogged a little bit. So just make sure that all of the jobs that you have worked have been sent in. And if they haven't, you might need to send that information to the EDD. I know that, yes. So the chart was incorrect that had all the number breakdowns. That was for disability, not unemployment. So you can, which also you should apply for disability for COVID-19. That's something else you can do. Yay. But you can Google it. I'm sure there's the chart somewhere online that has the breakdown. I could do it, but I'm talking. So another thing to keep in mind, just like outside of COVID, and I realize I want to keep this COVID specific, but there are smarter times than others to apply for unemployment benefits. Because it's based on the last 5 quarters that you worked, they take the income from the highest 4 quarters to determine your benefits. So let's say you made $1,000 one quarter.
Sort of, Giselle,
Okay.
Giselle, sort of. It's actually it's based on the last 4 quarters less the nearest quarter. So the quarter most closest to you is considered not part of your look back period. It's the 4 quarters prior to that. However, you can get that adjusted. That's also on the EDD website. So say, for example, last quarter, this one ending in March. Yeah. So if this last quarter, if you made, like you didn't make money last year, but suddenly this first quarter you made money, but you want to apply for unemployment insurance now, you can get your what's called your look back period moved to the most recent 4 quarters, as opposed to the 4 quarters after the most recent quarter. Does that make sense? It's a little fudgy, but
so there's something
you want to think about what quarter you made the most, because the one that made the most money is going to determine what your benefit amount is. So if all of them are qualifying you for the max, then it doesn't matter. But if the one qualifying you for your max is the most recent quarter, then you need to have your, sorry, I'm just bossy pants.
No, I think that you might be breaking up a little bit too. So I just wanted to point out, hold on, time out. Hold on, Alan, hold on. So there is a sheet called the fact sheet, which when should I file in the drive, and it has everything that Katie just explained and in a diagram. So you guys can see what the standard base period is versus the adjusted base period. Prior to COVID, you could only get the adjusted gross period if your earnings you didn't qualify from the other standard base period, right? You could only, but that might have changed due to COVID. So, I made more money this quarter than I did all of last year. So let's hope that counts towards mine.
Okay, so is it the past 4 quarters or isn't it the past 6 quarters?
So it could have changed to past 6. It used to be past 5.
Okay. Cool.
I believe the CARES Act extended it. So whatever it was before, it is slightly more extended to give people more to pull from.
Gotcha.
So for instance, you know, that, I guess I'm trying to do math backwards, but that would have been from December, let's see, December of last year, December of the year before last, that whole quarter-ish. I'm trying to visualize it. I'm a very visual person and I don't have a diagram. Okay, so then moving on. Let's see. Okay, so once your benefits are approved, and I also wanted to point out that there is a step-by-step like screenshot of how to apply, like all of the steps and everything you put into the drive. It's a PDF. It can also be found on the union website. But like if you actually want a step-by-step of like how to answer these questions for actors, it is in the drive. And next, we will get into tracking earnings and residuals. Katie? Did you email me? I can't hear you. I don't know if you emailed me that thing.
Yeah, sorry. I certainly mailed you the link to the tracking. So I'm going to share my screen really quick with you. Okay, hold on 1 second. Share my screen.
I don't think it's going to work.
Share.
Oh,
all right, is everybody see? I'm sharing it. I'm showing it. You got it? Is it up? Great. Okay, so basically, when you apply for unemployment insurance, it's going to ask you what you made from each employer for each quarter. Yeah, that's a lot. So not just, so people say, oh, you can just use your W-2s, but you can't because that doesn't break it down by quarter. That just simply breaks it down for the year. Of course, it's a great way to start so that you can sort of remind yourself, oh crap, who did I make money from last year and who are all of my employers? Now, because we're all actors, some of us can have a lot of employers. Fun fact, the website only lets you fill in 8 of them. So what I like to do is I like to pick the 8 that I made the least amount of money from so that I have the least amount of addition to do, and those are the 8 I answer. And you say, well, but I want to make sure I get all my money. They know how much money you made unemployment, okay? This is just to basically verify that you're you, find something that, you know, rarely are things missing, in my opinion, regarding EDD, which is why they have that 1 quarter blank period, right? So that it gives time for everything to be put in. But if you're not using an adjusted base period, they know who you are. This is just a matter of sort of verifying. So don't panic about being off or slightly wrong. They are just wanting to verify this is you. It can happen sometimes that they can't verify you. And that happened to me where somebody else was using my social security number, blah, blah, blah. I had to send stuff in. So yes, that can happen. But as a general rule, you're just going to fill this stuff out. They actually have all the information that they need, and they will base it on the full information, regardless of what you filled out. So you only need to fill out 8 if you do it online, and it's fairly easy. You'll just fill out how much you made per each employer per quarter. Now, the way to make that easier is this spreadsheet that I just shared with you. This is just a blank example of a way that I do it. I just look for different ways to categorize things because there are different things that I need categorized for. So for example, I say pay end in my first column. The reason I have that is because I also like to cross-reference my earnings with the SAG-AFTRA pension and health websites to make sure that I have been properly contributed into those things, make sure that I'm qualifying for health and pension accordingly. And sometimes they list things by pay end in their database. So I just like to have all the different dates so that I can cross-reference everything. Then I mark down the agent or manager column so I see who project and the agent manager, who did I pay commission to, who was the producer of the company, who's the employer of record. Employer of record is our sort of most important thing when we're talking about actors. You know, you're pretty much never, you know, employed by, you know, such and such studio or such and such agency. You're usually your employer of record for the very, very majority is a payroll company, except for some things that have like in-house ones, like 20th Century Fox has their own in-house. Warner Brothers has in-house payroll. But the employer of record is always who you're going to be filling out as your employer. Never Coca-Cola, it's whoever your paycheck. Then I like to, for my own personal reference, keep record of what type of employment, what type of payment it was. Is this a session fee? I'll tell you why that matters. Is this a class A 1 through 4? Is it 1 through 4? Well, then did I get 4 through 10? You know what I mean? It's just a way to make sure everything is showing up when it's showing up. See if I might be due late fees, to see if maybe I'm missing a chunk. Did these cable cycles line up? Is there blank space in between? If there is blank space, did it run during that blank space? Do I need to chase after any money? That's a whole other ball of wax, keeping track of that. And find, if you do find that you might be missing money, filing a claim, that's a whole other webinar. But it's really important just to keep note of that in your spreadsheet. Then the amount is the gross before taxes were taken out. The union, the reason you say, well, but it's all SAG-AFTRA now. Actually, some things go into your AFTRA pension and some things go into your SAG pension. So the reason I have them separated on this or have that column listed here is so that I know what pension to go, find it in, so to speak. Were there any, what commission did I pay? What late fees were there? The reason late fees are entered toward pension and health. So if you're trying to figure out when you've earned a pension credit or when you've qualified for health insurance, late fees don't count. So you want to just sort of pull those out as a little side thing. Then the check date is the date on the check, right? And then date received. Now this is really, really important. I often call this column, in my own spreadsheet, I actually call this column EDD. And the reason why is because when we are paid a residual, we don't know it's coming until we receive it. So that is when we earn a residual, as far as certifying for your weekly benefits, to say that I earned some money. And when you earn money while collecting unemployment benefits, your benefits for that week will be reduced to compensate for that. Please make sure you're accurate on this, because if you take money that's not yours, you might have to go to court and pay it back. So don't be fudging the system here. If you get some residual payment, you need to claim it as earned, and it's earned basically the day that you received it in the mail. So a lot of people keep their envelope with direct deposit now with SAG-AFTRA. There's a date that you received an email. I keep that. I mark that down. Those are the dates that you want to be able to prove if EDD ever says like, hey, you were earning money and we were paying you. So you just want to make sure you keep accurate record of that. So I actually call date received EDD. And the reason I call it EDD is because there's one instance where you're reporting it to EDD, which is actually not the date you received it. And that is a work day, a session day. So for example, if I shoot an episode of a sketch for Conan, I'm not going to get my paycheck for a week later, right? But the day I earned it is whether you work or earned money, is the day I shot it. So I like to call that column EDD usually, and it's either the day you shot, if it's a session, or it's the day it came in the mail, if it's a residual. Those are the two things that you need to be cognizant of. And then of course the check net I like to have, because I had an ATM eat some checks once and it was a whole bitch. And I just like to have all the information I can on my spreadsheet. But if you have this type of spreadsheet working for you, when it's time to apply for unemployment, when it's time for you to apply for unemployment, all you have to do is sort by employer, sort by quarter, and get your totals. And it's really easy and just takes you a couple of minutes. So I know this sounds daunting right now, but once you have this up and running and you put things in as they come, like unless you're getting checks every day, but good luck to you, and yay, good for you. It's not that hard. Once a week you get in there and add things in there, and it's really doable. And this type of bookkeeping has really saved my life and made it so much easier. So That should be on the Google Drive. Adam or Evan, did you add it to the Google Drive? I sent it to you.
I will momentarily. As soon as this is over, it'll be in the Google Drive.
And save it as.
I just wanted to add. I want to add 2 additional.
Great, fantastic. And go ahead. Oh, and I was just going to say, everybody. Oh, I find that the worksheets work differently for everybody else. Like everybody finds like one certain information. Like I've started to add an MPU column for commercials that are running, things like that. You may find certain columns don't mean anything to you, or you might want to add columns. This is just a rudimentary system to use, and you can adjust it as works for you. Go ahead, Evan.
So the 2 things I just wanted to add to that. One, I wanted to hit on what Katie said about fee session days versus residuals. So when they ask you, have you worked at this day? If you get a residuals check payment in while you're on, unemployment, that does not count as a day worked. Yes, you are paid, but it's all about the session fee day for those are the days worked. And so you have total earnings.
That is an earned.
But it's but yeah. So you make money, but if you get X number amount of dollar as direct deposit, as whatever residuals, that does not count as a day of work. It's only in the sound booth, on location, wherever it is, like actual session days. So that's important to be aware of. If you are not as amazing as Kate,
on the form, it will ask you,
I was gonna add one more thing.
It will ask you specifically. Okay.
No, Katie, you go, and then I'll go.
Okay, let me go. So basically, when you're doing this, I know you're like, well, how do I say that or whatever? Well, here's how, because it's all online now. It's a drop-down menu, so it's super easy. It will say, did you work or earn money? So either I worked, that's my session, or I earned it, that's a residual, right? So I check that box. Then you're going to get another page where it's going to ask you if it was like physical work or another kind of income. And in that drop-down menu is residuals and holding fees. So you click that drop-down menu, and that's how you list it. Somebody asked, how do you list it down? Katie's breaking up when she's giving the answers. Am I still breaking up, really?
Yeah, a little bit.
Is it not good? Just, you guys raise your hand if I'm breaking up, and I'll slow down and repeat.
Okay, I'm just gonna jump in real quick.
All right, let me say that
Jumping
again.
in really quick, I'm posting a video from the EDD YouTube, and it explains step-by-step with video how to enter things for entertainment workers. So specifically what it looks like when you're entering residuals, specifically what it looks like when you're entering for session. So all of that is good, and there's videos in the chat panel.
And I don't need to say it.
So I just wanted to add, if you are not as amazing as Katie in keeping track of numbers, and Excel is not your forte, depending on how you pronounce it, I use, and I'll post this here, waveapps.com. It is free, similar to like a QuickBooks, and you can link it to your bank account, and then it pulls in all of your data, and then you can just categorize it. And it's got this great feature where it learns. So once you start categorizing things, when they come in, it automatically categorizes. So at the end of the year, for me, I can just click everything from this payee, and it totals it all for me. And you can add notes. In addition, it doesn't have the specificity of Katie's. So if the Excel sheet is probably much more helpful, but if you feel overwhelmed, it allows you to keep track of everything in a means that's capable of being controlled for you. And one of the other things I really like about waveapps.com is you can have, under one username, you can have businesses and personal together. So you can separate them out, but you don't need like a separate login. So as we'll get to it later on, if you have an LLC, C Corp, S Corp, whatever, you can keep track of that, but it doesn't mix the money together like say a QuickBooks would do.
So quickly, I just want to mention So once your benefits are approved, this is what's going to happen. You're going to certify bi-weekly. You're going to do 2 weeks at a time for those who have never applied before and have never been accepted before. You will enter this information every 2 weeks. I believe it's a Sunday that you will enter it for, and it goes from the Sunday to Saturday of the previous week. In terms of sessions, one thing you should keep in mind is that when you book a commercial or you book a theatrical spot or you do a voiceover, as Katie and Evan said, the day that you actually show up to set is the day that you worked, and that is a session and it's a work day. Your employer is the payroll company, and oftentimes that's going to be listed on your call sheet. Katie, this is for you, or Alan. What is another way that you can find out your employer if it's not
also
on the call sheet?
Yeah, it's sometimes on your contract, but just in really tiny print. I'll go grab one right now, actually, so I can show you what I mean. But yeah, it's often on your, believe it or not, it's usually on your contract. In fact, that's listed on the call sheet is the payroll for crew, which may be different than the payroll for talent. So let me go grab a contract example right now, and I'll.
Thanks, Katie. So then the other thing to keep in mind is it will ask you like, oh, where have you applied? What jobs have you applied to? How are you proving that you're looking for work? You don't have to answer that. It's actually not required that you answer it on that sheet. You should be keeping track of that yourself. You should be keeping track of all your auditions. Katie and I both have audition spreadsheets, and we track everything that we've auditioned for and what we've got callbacks for and who the directors are. Good information that you should have. But another easy way to do it is email your agents and ask for their submission sheet. Most of the time, they'll be totally cool with just handing that over. And if for some reason the EDD were to contact you and be like, hey, we need proof that you are looking for work, you can just show that, and that is your proof, basically. Alan, did you want to pop in on that? It looked like you had something to say.
Oh, it was just going to be like, and if they do have a problem with handing that over, it's time to get new representation.
Yeah, touche.
Like,
so another thing to keep in mind is, especially now that this is both W-2 income and 1099 income, before it was also 1099 income, you were supposed to report all 1099 income that you make. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that if you report too many really small numbers of 1099 income on these benefit certifications, your account will get flagged. So what they say is either group together anything under $25. So it's not like $1 here. If you're selling things $2 there or $3 there or whatever, group that together. If it's less than $5, don't even bother adding it on there. This was actually told to us from the EDD, from many different members in our moms group. They relayed that information back. There's no point in reporting that. But you should report all other income. And another thing to keep in mind, if you've never had unemployment before, basically when you report income that you've made, it doesn't take away that money from you. It just delays it. So let's say you're getting $450 a week and you earned $300 one week. That means you'll get $150 this week and $450 the next. And that extra $350 that you didn't get will just get tacked on to a week later. So it stretches it out. So instead of 6 months that your benefits last, they might last 7 or 8 or 9, which is a good thing.
I just also wanted to add to that. So
I found the documents. I can show you.
When you make over, I know in New York, I don't know if it's the same in LA, but if you make over $600 from a company via 1099 independent contracting, they send you a 1099 miscellaneous form. Anything under that amount, they are not obligated to, so they won't send it to you. And therefore you can put it in. But then also just to reiterate what Giselle was saying, $5 is not going to add much to your total. So if it's that amount from one thing, it's like they gave you a thank you gift, not necessarily a payment.
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to add on, oh my God, it was at the tip of my brain and then it went away.
You find it while I go back to this thing.
Okay.
All right. So this is a contract, right? Blah, blah, blah. Lots of information. Where the hell does it talk about who my employer is? all the way down at the bottom in teeny tiny print, see where it says extreme reach? That's who your employer is. And it says, employer of record for income tax and unemployment insurance is extreme reach. It's so tiny. And I know in this whole giant thing, it's like, why is that where it is? But that's frequently where it is on most contracts. Some might have it a little higher, a little bigger print, but for the most part, it's down there. So just make sure you're reading things.
Katie, you're frozen.
I am? How am I frozen?
Let it go, Alan. Let it go.
I've actually hardwired my computer with Ethernet for Zoom now.
Still?
Use Wi-Fi. Yeah, you're still breaking up.
But just to reiterate, it's at the bottom of the contract.
Did everything I just?
What you said came through, just not the picture. So bottom of the contract in small print.
Cool. Okay, so I'm gonna just say too that once you receive your benefit.
Can you see that? Can you see it?
No.
You can't see it?
Now we can.
You can't. Evan. Oh God, there's just like a delay. All right.
And we trust you though, and I think
right here,
everybody gets the gist, which is the key.
It's so
we should we should definitely keep it moving so we can get to.
Yes. Okay. So quickly, just want to go through that when you've been approved, you will receive in California an EDD debit card from Bank of America. Hang on to this card. You will continue to use it with every single claim that you file. It'll go to the same bank account. One thing to keep in mind is you can actually use it in stores. You can use it as a debit card, or you can do what I do, which is just transfer all the funds to my bank account every week. That's a lot easier. There's no fee, so you don't have to pay anything to do that, which is great. Also, I wanted to quickly paste this in the chat. This is from the New York Times. They said that this is how they're going to apply, or I guess if you're applying as a 1099 employee, this is how they're like figuring out how much money you'll make. I don't quite understand it, but for those who want to look into it, they can. This is from the New York Times.
Giselle, I also want to say that you can have it set up for direct deposit.
There you go.
On the EDD or on Bank of America. You just have to use your routing and account number. It's pretty easy. It happens pretty quickly. And I just have it gets deposited Sunday night or Monday morning from when I fill out my thing.
I just wanted to make two notes that sort of don't really have anything to do with unemployment, but sort of do. And one of them is that you should, in your head, think, especially if you live in Los Angeles, not all of California, but if you live in Los Angeles or its surrounding areas and you work in LA, you should keep track of what city you're doing your work in. Not necessarily residuals, obviously that's not a city because that's not a session, but if you're doing a session, keep track of that because we have LA city business tax, which you should be applying for every year. If you make less than $350,000 a year, you do not have to pay any tax, but you do have to apply. And anytime you do any work in the city of Los Angeles, which is a bunch of different cities, there are things that are not in, like that are, what is the right word? You don't, basically Burbank, Pasadena, West Hollywood, if you do work there, then it doesn't apply. Katie, go ahead.
That's only regarding 1099 work. You only have to report your 1099 work for the city business tax. So, and that's gonna really happen with it shouldn't happen with your acting work unless your loan out corporation is based in Burbank or something like that. But except I think once in a blue moon, things will still, like royalties or that pays you, you know, believe it or not, some of like cable narration and stuff like that is actually still non-jurisdictional. So that stuff will actually pay you not as an employee. So there are the occasional things, I guess, that might come up that you would be 1099, and that stuff is if you're making that in Los Angeles, you need to apply for the city business tax.
One thing,
and that also for your side hustle, or like say you're teaching, are you a teacher at the Groundlings? Are you a teacher at an acting class? Those things would be that type of income for sure.
And just as a note, like audiobook income, I do a lot of Hooked, like webisodes, audiobook site. Those are all 1099. Also some video games, especially if they're indie video games, can still pay as 1099s. So in terms of our actual webinar, I think that's everything. We can move on to questions unless Alan or Katie, there's anything else you want to cover.
There's something I wanted to cover. I believe that this is the case, but you should also look at the unemployment payouts if you worked in another state. Because I know a couple of years ago, I worked in Colorado and they paid out like $600 something a week. By the time that I had, long story short, I could have applied for unemployment there and gotten that, but I would have had to wait like a few months. And I needed it then, but double check on the states that you had worked in, because you might be able to get unemployment there and get the larger amount.
So
yeah,
just backing that up, or piggybacking on that, yeah, in New York versus New Jersey actually has better unemployment payouts than New York, and therefore one of the discussions there, which one of the people from the New York unemployment office had told one of our panelists before, if you have work in New Jersey, double check that, because just as Alan said, it's different by state, and if you have enough work in another state, it can be more advantageous for you.
And just to bounce off of that too, I'm actually going to wait and to file my claim for unemployment until I can actually talk to someone on the phone. I might wait a month. I have the ability to wait a month, but like I said, all of the money I've earned was in this particular quarter that's going to end tomorrow. I earned more this quarter than I did almost all of last year. So I would like my unemployment to be based off this so I can get the maximum amount instead of like $50 plus 600, I could get the $450 plus 600. So I'm going to wait. You might find that if you're in that same position, you want to wait too. The chart of that is very similar to what's in the drive. You can also search for the EDD unemployment breakdown to see what you qualify for, but you really should be keeping track of what quarter you've earned the most money in and which they're going to pull in order to get that unemployment benefit amount. And unless anyone has anything else we want to say, we can move it to Q&As.
Excellent. All right. So just a heads up, we've got 89 and counting questions. So
Jesus.
I'm gonna read the question. We are going to be efficient with our answers, just so we can get through them. I think there'll probably be a bunch of overlap, but I'll just read them, and anybody on the panel who feels best to answer it or adds on to something I go on a tangent on, feel free to add to it. So I'm going to leave names out just because I believe in anonymity. So I still have an EDD claim open, but the money ran out last week. Am I still eligible for an extension even though my claim isn't up until July?
Yes.
Okay, there's that one. Awesome. The answer to that question is yes.
You may have to reapply. Again, this is very, very new. So I for a moment thought, hey, oh, maybe we're just, if we were already on unemployment, we'll be screwed up with this. No, they put the stipulations in there. Just like give it a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, and there will be things to handle this sort of thing.
I just want to quickly piggyback on that. I've put in the SAG-AFTRA website with the portal or information hub for everything related to COVID-19, all news updates that will affect you, unemployment, disability, things that are going on with the union, that's all there. So I recommend checking that every day, and you might find that some of your answers are getting answered there.
Cool. And then there's this next one, but I think we might have answered it. So I've exhausted my EDD as of this week. How do I file pandemic emergency assistance unemployment? I sent EDD an email yesterday. It'll probably take several weeks to get back to me.
I can take that, which is that we don't know yet. It's been less than 24 hours since this has gone through business hours. I had heard that when you are starting a new application, from the drop-down menu of the reasons why you're applying, there is something called pandemic. I don't know if that's true because I haven't filed it and I haven't looked at it myself, but that will probably be answered in the next week or so. I just say give it some time.
Yeah, and just similar to how they adjusted it to be retroactive for when the pandemic did affect your job, not when you applied for the application. It seems like they're creating extenuating circumstances. So that should be addressed. It just depends on when. And as we said earlier, legislation happened Friday, but it takes some time to implement that legislation. So just give it a moment. But I know, all of the artistic unions are on top of graphics as soon as they have information that is fully verified on how to do things. So definitely the link that Giselle shared, I shared it earlier about the COVID-19 updates from SAG-AFTRA. It is being updated daily, hourly, with as much information as they know. All right, thanks for doing this. For those of us who have already filed for unemployment prior to the new entertainment workers supplement, do we need to take further action in order to claim the extra $600? Filed March 15th and just verified for my first 2 weeks yesterday, but as of now, my benefit amount does not reflect the new supplement. Thanks.
From what I understand, as soon as California actually verifies this, and again, every state, basically the federal government was like, everyone can have up to $600, and every state's different. Not every state is going to give you $600. California has said they will, but I don't think this has actually gone through yet. I think there's a process, but as far as I know, you don't have to do anything, and that should be added to your benefit amount as soon as it actually is handled and confirmed in Los Angeles and California.
All right. So this is just an informational thing that's helpful. It is a state holiday on Tuesday or today. All EDD offices will be closed. Please note that benefit payments may require an additional 1 to 2 days processing. Thank you for that information. I recently became union not long before the lockdown, as in I'm still paying off my initiation fee. I was supposed to work on my first union job as a union member before everything hit. Would I qualify for unemployment insurance? Do I have to be fully initiation fee paid union first? So my first initial answer is 2 things. One, the union just today made announcements about relief for dues, which my guess is would also apply to initiation fee payments if you were on a payment plan. Also, unemployment applies to the employers, or either the 1099 income or your W-2 income. So your union status, I don't think should apply, but I'm gonna lean it to people who know better than me.
Yeah, your union status.
Nothing to do with it.
Yeah. There's no way in any scape of the land that
Income is your income.
Yeah.
You can be a waiter and get unemployment, right? It has nothing to do with who your employers are. It has nothing to do with your union membership.
It just has to do with
benefit as an employee that you get,
regardless
of who your employer.
I'm gonna keep going through because now even though we've been answering, we're now over 100 questions. Okay, we touched on this, but just to remind everybody, how long do benefits last in general? Because CARE Act extended it. I believe it was extended by 13 weeks. Can somebody verify that?
So it's
yeah, but here's
I'll go. It's 9 months now. If you're doing it right now, it's 9 months. You have your 6 months, and then the extended 13 weeks.
Yes. Fun fact, though. You need to think of it instead of thinking it as a weekly payment. Think of it as a bank account that has a total in it. and you're allowed to withdraw. Breaking up. God damn it.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Katie, once you're back on, we'll jump back to you. I'm just going to move to another question, and then we'll come back. But I think what you were going to say was it's not about union status or your relationship with things. It's about the amount of income you had. So how you
No, so like all of this money that you make, the $450 plus $600 across 9 months, that goes into a bank account for you, and it's there for you for as long as the claim is, except for a year, you can take from that. So you just keep that in mind. It's not going to be taken away. It doesn't expire. Like, you know, after the 9 months, it doesn't expire. It's the whole claim period, and you can just keep drawing from that.
And here's the thing, that you can also, a year from the date that you first apply for unemployment insurance, you are allowed to apply again. So keep that in mind. You're allowed to, so say I applied September 2019, I'm allowed, September 12th, 2019, on September 12th, 2020, I can apply for unemployment once again.
Hey, Alan, this is I thought, and I could have been wrong, I thought it was from the last time that you had unemployment benefit. So like mine.
It is from the day
you applied. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I apologize. I think I was answering the question before a little because I got distracted. All right. Does anyone know if we can start claiming unemployment on residuals alone? I know we haven't been able to, so in the past, had to have an actual day of work, but hopefully that has changed now. My guess is since residuals are considered passive income, probably not, but I'm gonna go over to Katie or Alan because they look really full of energy.
Yes, so you just need to have, previously you needed to have a day of work in that 1 year period, but keep in mind that day of work can be anything. It could be a day of work that you waitered, that you did a catering event, that you, anything. It doesn't have to have been an acting job that you booked. It just has to be a day of work, okay, in some fashion. And they have changed this with the CARE Act. They're because like you don't even have to be employed at all. You could just be a little small business or whatever and apply for unemployment now. You can be a corp and apply for unemployment regardless now. It used to be if you were incorporated, it sort of depended, like, did you pay yourself? How much did you pay yourself? When you paid yourself, did you, not as important right now. You don't have to know the answers to those exactly and still can get unemployment. So you don't really have, at least in the last, you don't need to have had a day of work currently in this CARE Act, but that may change back again, as Alan said.
I would like to add real quick that because you are a union member, and this only applies to union members, you cannot be forced to look for work outside of your union. So don't think that you're like, oh, I'm an unemployed actor, I have to be looking for work as a waiter, or work. Like if you do that, fine, but you cannot be forced to do that once you're a union member.
That's super helpful. Okay, I'm gonna throw this in.
Quick thing I want to add.
Claiming, oh, Katie?
Okay.
You froze. Okay. Also worried about claiming 1099 income. Okay, so right now the EDD
is this live?
in CA,
Yes, we hear you, Katie.
The EDD in CA is using self-employment claims to find and audit folks who are freelancers who pay others under 1099. Lots of folks are afraid to report their 1099 income. I mean, my initial response is they don't have time to do that right now. I don't know if that's happening in New York, but does anybody on the panel have any insight into this?
Yeah, no, I don't. I just like, they're so overwhelmed. Why would they even take the time to do that?
I'm a little confused by this question. I guess the thing is, if you received 1099 income, you received a 1099. If you're saying you received income that you haven't reported and that was under $600 and wasn't reported by your not employer, but whoever paid you, I would say you probably don't want to try to get unemployment based on that. But yeah, I'm a little confused on that question.
We're going to move on because we have tons of questions. All right. Can
you hear me better now? Just wondering.
Yes. On the ca.edd website, in the application process, payroll companies show up as employers, and there are questions regarding hourly wage, days worked, etc. How does this work for residuals?
We answered this already, and I think this was from 4:30, so I think we can move on.
Got it. Boom. It is, I don't know what this is. I'm going to come back to it. If you book a job while on unemployment, but are paid through your S Corp and only run payroll for your Corp once a year, what do you list as the payroll company?
I think you would list the payroll company that you use to run payroll. One thing that you should keep in mind, obviously none of us have corps. We were trying to focus on individuals. One thing you might want to weigh, if you have a corp and you pay yourself through that corp and you're looking to have unemployment, what's going to happen is that part of the unemployment, I believe this is how it works, don't quote me, part of that unemployment that you're paid to yourself has to come out of the fund that you've paid into, and then you have to refill that fund, and that fund's window gets raised because you've had a claim. It might not get raised much, but you will have to pay some of that back if you are. So just keep that in mind. You might want to like research that a little bit and weigh the pros and cons and see if actually applying for unemployment and getting that extra money will be worth having to refill your fund.
Yeah, so I'll jump on this real quick just to sort of, so there's different company structures. There's sole proprietorship LLCs, but they are incorporated. There's S Corps and C Corps. The S Corp and C Corp is used as a means to lower your self-employment taxes. So you can use any of those three structures for loan out. If you're using an S Corp or a C Corp that relates to this question, you are paid, you're the owner, but you also are paid as an employee a proper compensation for your work. And therefore the proper compensation of your work, your company pays taxes on your behalf, and then you pay half the taxes yourself. And then the rest of the profits that the company makes, even though it's a loan out paid to you, they only pay the business taxes and don't have to pay the additional taxes, even though you can take that as profit. If you are an LLC but a sole proprietorship, you're paying the entire income there. You're paying self-employment taxes on there. So likely they will treat the two differently, because the self-employment one, an LLC that's a sole proprietorship, will essentially be just a pass-through income. With the C Corp and S Corp, they definitely will have new rules. Standard, usually, as Giselle said, the employer, which would be the C Corp, S Corp in this case, does pay part of the unemployment tax. It pays into that. So that relates to it. Because, again, the legislation just came out, there are no set rules on this yet. So we have to see how it'll actually be applied when it comes into the actual applicable rules for unemployment. So those are currently up in the air, and there are no solidified answers yet. But there will be a way, and given that the government understands that small companies and S Corps, C Corps are individuals themselves, there likely will be some sort of exception that takes that into account, because those S Corps, C Corps aren't making money right now either. Okay, jumping on.
Hey, Evan, will you, at the end of this, just repaste the link to the Google Drive in the chat? Because there's a couple people asking. So they said they came late and they didn't.
Not a problem. I'm going to just do that quickly as I do this. All right, after I ask the question. I applied for the first time in my life and only using W-2, but now law changed and you can include 1099's earnings. What should I do? Wait till I get an answer or reapply?
I'm going to say wait. And I'm only saying wait because you can always talk. If you receive your benefit, hold on, Katie. If you receive your benefits, you'll get that a hard copy via postal mail. You don't have to accept it, and you can always call and you can talk to someone and you can cancel it and you can reapply. The only reason why I'm saying wait is because you don't know how much, you might already hit the max, in which case it doesn't matter. And two, they're so overloaded right now. I wouldn't want both applications to cancel each other out or have it be a flat or have something weird happen. So if you can wait, I would say wait, but Katie might have other information.
First of all, can you hear me? Am I frozen? Can you hear me? You can.
We can hear you.
Okay.
And you're sort
First of all, you're 10, now you can't?
No, we can. You're just a little bit glitchy in terms of your
Well,
face.
as long as you can hear me, I don't care.
Also, Katie, if you want to turn off the video feed.
That my face is not glitchy. I need somebody to keep a thumbs up then, as long as you can hear me. How about now? Can you hear me? Keep your thumb up as long as you can hear me and it's decent. Okay. So your 1099 income doesn't actually go toward your benefits, okay? Still just W-2 income goes toward your unemployment benefits. However, these $600 of the CARE Act is not based on any of your income or employment. So you can get that based on having worked a 1099 job, but your 1099 income doesn't actually go toward your earnings, so to speak, that qualify you for that initial up to $450, if that makes sense, right? Or before the $600 added from the CARE Act only comes from your prior earnings from W-2. What the CARE Act does is it allows you to not have had any of those earnings, to have just had 1099 earnings, or in addition have 1099 earnings and $100.
One thing I want to add is from what I was reading, and this could be inaccurate, Katie might have the total correct information, but from what I was reading, if you have 1099 income, they're basing that off of a normal recurring week of income. You will get a flat fee plus the 600. But you cannot get more than the 450 week or whatever our max is. And I don't think you can combine them, but that's sort of the information I have.
Okay.
So this should be a quick question answer. If you had another day job that puts you at the max benefit amount, do you still have to list all your other W-2 employers?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Up to 8. Up to 8.
So if you have them, you have to list them.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Moving on. In the next couple of months, there will be no additions. So keeping track of additions and directors won't be applicable for some months. Can you talk about filling out looking for work for employment? And
yes, I can talk about that. You don't have to do that. Hit skip.
Yes, we talked about this in the Q&A.
Cool.
Hit skip.
Boom.
Skip.
I'm employed. I was employed in CA when I was laid off, but I am a New York resident. Which state's unemployment benefit should I apply to?
Alan,
where you earned it. Where you earned it, because that's the state that has it. The state that you paid into. So that's who has the money.
Cool.
Well, I actually got unemployment because I worked a day when I moved here. I worked a day here, and then I had gotten they counted residuals that I had made in New York towards my total. So I had gotten
like a combined.
Yeah. So if you worked in both places, you can choose. I'm like, somebody can.
Yes, but the question was, I worked in California, but now I'm in New York. So you got to get it from California, because New York.
But they're also, but if they're already in New York.
If they have work in New York.
Yeah, if they have worked in New York.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of a dealer's choice, right?
Only if they had work there as well.
Yeah, if they have work. Oh, they have work in New York. Okay. So yeah, find out which one pays more and go for it.
Yeah.
Cool. Can you link the union performers Facebook? I can't easily right now, but it's just posting. If you go to Facebook and you look up the group Union Performers, it's a general group. You can join that. That's just where it's streaming live as well, and will be the New York and New Jersey one is there, and this will be there as well. But you can just search it. Okay, ooh, this one will be fun. I started a loan out S Corp in late 2018 and continue to funnel both my acting income and 1099 freelance writing income through that entity, paying myself salary as the sole employee. Any advice or tips as I pursue unemployment for the first time? Thanks for this. So my main thing would be similar to what Katie said, keep track of all of those payments, where they go and everything. But as this legislation folds out, they will have direct information about how to deal with exactly that situation.
Yeah, and I think that the union in the next couple of weeks will have a person who can at least give you some information. They might not be able to give you guidance, but they might be able to give you information and sort of, you know, again, take into consideration how much you paid yourself and how much you would get from max benefits and whether or not it's worth it to you to have a bump in the amount that you have to pay into unemployment as your own employer.
Yeah, so I know as of today, SAG-AFTRA was looking at the concept of loan outs and how they were affected. So I'm sure in the coming days or soon, they will give out information. Also, if you have a loan out, once the government comes out with exactly how it works, probably talk to your CPA would be helpful as well. All right. I'm just gonna keep on. I had an existing unemployment claim that I got a month ago. I understand that it sounds like I have to let that expire before I can do new claims by adding in 1099 work. Can you explain this process of adding 1099 work lost due to COVID? So I'm just to answer that one. We don't have exact information on it yet, but they will come out with information. It's sort of in the process, so we can only give educated guess, but there will be some new thing just similar to the pull down for, you know, pandemic as the reason. There will be, I think, a complete reworking of addition to the whole process that adds these things in. I'm also, this is just an educated guess, guessing that if there's things that are missing that now can be added to current applications, that you will have the opportunity to add those things that were added in because of this bill. And
I was scrolling down, I saw a bunch of more questions regarding what do I have? 1099, I have 1099 income, I have W-2, I've got both. I want to just direct everyone back to the flow chart. It's called the AEMI flowchart, Government COVID-19 Relief F1 PDF on the drive, and it will help guide you in like, oh, what do I do if it's this? It gives you all of the guidance that you need right on there.
And just to jump to other questions related to W-2 and 1099, yes, when you fill it in, you will be filling in both of those because income is income. All right, let me just jump through. Okay, answer that one. Sorry, I'm just gonna go quick. Not seeing reference documents. They are now posted in the chat. They're also now also posted on the union performers page that this is live streaming on. They are Google Docs. Oh, never mind. They just said they saw them reposted. I lost an AEA contract in California, supposed to start April 28th, 21. I live in Kentucky. Currently, I'm getting a pittance from Kentucky for a lost job. What can I do about the loss of what would have been my future California job? My understanding is the union is working directly about, I mean, well, this would be an AEA union thing, but I know SAG-AFTRA is on top of it, and I think Actors Equity is as well, that jobs lost to because of the pandemic are being addressed. This does bring in discussions about force majeure that are parts of all of our contracts. That said, I know SAG-AFTRA is in discussions with employers about this, so I'm assuming Equity is as well. They are working to make sure that they are fighting for your rights so that something can be worked out relating to this. Any other additions on that?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. There definitely is a way to, if you've lost work due to COVID that was like in a contract, that can count towards your unemployment. I can't exactly remember where I saw it, but it does count.
Okay, so this is just a quick one about East Coast, West Coast. So one of the things we talked on the New York, New Jersey one was making sure you fill out the information when you apply properly. Yes, you can correct it. That said, as brought up in New York, New Jersey, technically if you are reporting incorrect income, that would be a fraud. So depending on the state, they are more lenient than not and often just say, oh, we have this thing that is different. Please correct it. But when you're doing it, be diligent, fill it out. You know, I mean, like any application or contract that relates to money, make sure you're putting in the right numbers and not lying about it. But following within the rules of the gig. One of the things that sort of we talked about in the New York, New Jersey one that it hasn't come up, but if you move out of state because of the pandemic, but you are still making money doing voiceover things or other income, but you are technically a resident of California, you can that still counts as California income if you're not in California, because we have the ability to make income from not being in a specific location. But since your residence is in a state, you can claim it as that resident.
Just to add on, that link that I posted that was a video on the EDD YouTube page that's in the chat, it specifically says at the end, if you make a mistake, how to contact the EDD in order to correct that mistake. So if you have questions about how to do that, please check out that video and they have specific instructions.
Just answering, yes, W-2 and 1099 income applies to the rate because it's total income. Answer this. Employee from PA worker. Oh gosh, this is jumping around. Does the CARE Act benefits for SAG-AFTRA member roll over to AEA? I'm part of both unions. Yes, the CARE Act is for all people. It just was on a call earlier today, and the thing I can say about that is the union members and staff, even during all this, have fought really, really hard. As it was said, Gabrielle was on the phone with Nancy Pelosi about this specific CARES Act to make sure that performers were protected. It is not just for SAG-AFTRA members, it is all performers. The unions like Actors Equity and SAG-AFTRA and the music ones and all of those were the ones fighting for it, but it helps everybody. Filed as a W-2 employee from the PA work I did on The Voice. I haven't gotten the EDD number yet to access unemployment online. Should I refile now because I do a lot of 1099 work, Postmates, Grubhub, etc.?
So my advice to you is to look at if you can find it online, the EDD benefits breakdown, the amount that you made versus what you'll bring in, and you should look at your W-2 income versus your 1099 income and see which one would be more beneficial to you, and decide what you're gonna do based on that. I mean, either way, you're still getting that additional $600, which is really good, and is better than the normal like full benefit amount that you would get when you apply normally.
For the last employer information on unemployment benefit application, reason for no longer working, chose laid off, no work, but for separation explanation, can I choose related to COVID as my unemployment has to do directly related to the pandemic? The shooting was done before the shutdown dates, but I haven't been able to find jobs. No auditions since then.
Everything, you're off of work because of COVID, period.
Yeah, what Katie said. Period.
It's shut down because of that, period.
Do you have to get the max $450 to receive $600? No. The $600 is in addition to whatever amount you qualify for. That $600, it's for everybody who qualifies for unemployment. It does not depend on the rate. When you apply and you work a very small job, what happens? That one, I don't know what that means.
I think that means like you still have to report it if you receive benefits on the like weekly benefit thing, as long as it's over $25.
Yes, for those who were looking at the docs and saw a disability insurance chart.
I'm
yes,
stupid.
No. It's, things happen, and it will be updated. We will update that within the next 24 hours. Sorry about that. Evan is correct.
Do you want a second that Giselle is too?
I have a day gig as a group fitness instructor. We're currently closed. What complications should I expect when I file? I mean, it was closed because of COVID. Same as what Katie said. The pandemic is your reason, and it is a justified and full reason. That said, I mean, if you're doing like home videos and making money off of it, I don't know exactly how that applies, but your job itself, that was the reason. Is your last day of work when you last received a session fee or when you last received a residual check? The answer is—
the last physical date you worked, the last day you were on a set or behind a mic.
Yep. And in addition to that, we talked about it earlier, receiving a residual check or payment does not count as working a day.
No, it does not.
So between now and July, when the COVID assistant runs out, what happens if we receive some residuals and or book a job, but then not work again for a few weeks? So residuals, again, does not count as a day of work. If you book a job, correct me if I'm wrong, panel, that just counts as you found some work, but it's not continuous. Therefore, you just report it to unemployment and you don't get paid, I believe, during that time, but then it continues afterwards. As Giselle said, it is a lump amount that you can get in a certain, like over a certain amount of time, and those days just get pushed if
A year.
you have work.
1 year.
All right, I have my unemployment insurance, but it's much lower than top rate. Will I be able to get the difference between the care benefits and my regular EDD? The answer is probably yes, but we will all find out during the time in which they put it into action. Yes, somebody just noted, if you already have a claim, the $600 is retroactive to claims that began at the end of January, so they will be adding it in. This whole stimulus package and things are related to making sure that people can survive. So they are not trying to push people out of it. They're trying to make sure people have money to spend, because also when you have money to spend, you support the economy. I am both a 1099 and W-2 worker, and I'm trying to find out what is the best way to apply for unemployment assistance, just to mention. Okay, answer is you're using both of those, W-2 and 1099, as your earnings. So you just apply and you enter in your earnings and where you got it from. Do I still qualify for unemployment if my husband is still working and bringing in income?
Yep.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes.
Yes. When you're all done, will you share a link for discussion? Yes. This is streaming live on Facebook and it will stay on Facebook. Additionally, when it's done, this session is being recorded. I will edit it so you actually have some names for the people who you are watching, and you know, I'll just Photoshop myself to look better. And it'll be posted online. Whatever respects, also in whatever respects privacy as well. I just have to figure out what is the most respectful on that. But for the time being, they are on the Union Performers page where this is live streaming. Can you let people know about the quarterly earnings available on the SAG-AFTRA plans.org? I believe that relates to, so Katie sort of touched on this. I posted it in the chat. You can go to P&H and check your earnings from there. Also, the earnings portal on SAG-AFTRA.org will also have different information. Also, just as a plug from the things that the union has been pushing, if you are not doing direct deposit, do direct deposit. It, one, in this time means somebody's not touching a check that, you know, passes through a lot of people's hands, or the envelope passes through a lot of people's hands. It is a way to not have any interaction with anybody who's ever had COVID. And also, it just makes life easier. The union is processing, I think they process $4 million, or 4 million checks. I don't know, something, 4 million checks a year. Yeah, 4 million checks a year, 1 million checks a quarter. And they're doing it right now, and the staff is keeping it open. But like, the more we can make their life easier, the better. Yes, flowcharts currently, wait, the flowchart does not explain whether 1099 works towards eligibility or eligibility and weekly rate. Yes, all income works towards eligibility. How it works will be determined when they give us more information. Hope it's okay that I am micro machine speeding through these. I think a mistake was made in the commentary about choosing W-2 and 1099. The flowchart says that you can apply with both. I hope we have answered that repeatedly right now.
It's just whether or not that goes toward your weekly payment.
And I guess that will be answered when the legislation is turned into application and we can see. My personal educated guess would be that you'd be able to W-2 and 1099 together, because it's total earnings and not earnings in a particular way of getting paid.
I have a feeling you might have to choose one, because there's one where your employers have actually been paying in, there's one where they haven't, and the way they calculated it is different. So I don't know that you'll be able to combine them and to get a full amount, but you might be able to get like $50 and $50 as opposed to, you know, 200. I don't know how it's going to work, but whatever.
Actors that have corporations, asked and answered. It will be, you will be able to apply for unemployment. How exactly will be seen hopefully in the next week as they roll out answers to the legislation. Just again, reviewing, legislation happens, but then it has to actually be applied to the law and how it gets implemented. We are still waiting to hear that, but it is good. What are the steps if you have W-2s, 1099s from multiple states? That is going back to the previous question, figure out which one gives you more benefits and go through that one. What if you haven't been paid yet for the work from last week? Do you just list the company and amount?
Asked and answered. We already talked about this already.
I applied 2 weeks ago, and EDD hasn't sent me anything to tell me that the process is ready to begin and how much I'll be getting.
Running slow. They're running slow. It's just, they're overwhelmed right now. It's just taking time. Just be patient. I know that I just got something from them, and it was like, took like a whole week longer than it normally takes. So just be patient.
There's a question about disability pay. That would relate to if you have a disability or got a disability from a job. The chart was incorrectly put up there.
Hold on. So in California, you can apply for disability if you are unable to get work specifically because either you have COVID or you've been quarantined because of COVID. So there's more information, I think, on the EDD website. I would Google it and find more, but there is a way to get disability if you've been affected by COVID-19.
That is a much better answer. Thank you. Side hustle coaching income. Where does this get included and how do we designate the employer? So that would probably put down as a 1099 related or a independent contractor income, I guess. If you're getting paid in cash and they're not giving you a W-2. So when that comes about, that's how it would be applied. If they give you a W-2, then yeah.
You're just talking about like side coaching. Like, I think the question is about like coaching, you know, individual clients, not having a business or anything like that. Like if I coach someone on their audition and I charge them money or whatever, that when you list your employer is yourself. So your employer is yourself if you're doing that and reporting that income.
And just keep in mind that the EDD and the IRS probably don't talk to each other a ton, but they do talk to each other. So if you're going to be applying for 1099 relief here, just keep in mind at the end of the year that you might want to make sure that that is included in your taxes.
Everybody do it right.
Okay, I'm gonna
go to jail.
What if you qualified last year but never filed? Does that count against you at all?
I don't know what that means.
Like if you were unemployed, I believe, and you could have gotten unemployment, but you didn't file.
They don't want you to file.
Yeah.
So no, it doesn't kind of
like saying, oh, if I didn't do my taxes, but they're going to give me a bunch of money back, is it going to cost me anything? It's like, no, they're just not going to give you the money. They're going to be penalized for not getting your money back.
Okay, moving on. Just answer the chat question. Yes, I'm at the office. That's why I have the office in the background. What if you qualified last year but never filed? Does that count against you? No, we already did that one. Can you still get unemployment if your partner is still working? Yes, we answered that one. Boom. What do you put for employer when you are a C Corp? Since that will be again when they roll out how people who loan outs or things like that. That'll be explained. I would the COVID-19 website that Giselle posted from SAG-AFTRA. I think I also posted it at one point. That one, SAG-AFTRA is pumping out information as soon as they get it. So I would, again, bookmark that page because as soon as the explanation for that is known, they will give you the walkthrough of it. We don't know how it will be implemented at the moment. Nobody else?
Talk to your accountant.
Yes. Also, if you have an accountant, never a bad question. Yes, you can't see Katie's video because, oh, now she is. Well, I'm dismissing that. All right. Where do I enter my side hustle? We already got this. Boom. To confirm, employer of record is who you got the check from, right?
No, well, yes,
Yes.
it's a payroll company.
Who wrote the check? Who wrote it? The person that wrote it is the person who is your payer.
Not the individual, like not Charles from Extreme Reach, but Extreme Reach.
Whatever the check business name is on that check. Don't be confused with your agents. If you had money go through your agent first and then that check came to you, your agent is not your employer. The payroll company, the issuer of the paycheck is your employer.
In fact, legally, yeah.
What was that, Alan? We're moving on. We got 53.
Legally, your agent works for you, so they're your.
Yes, yeah. And if you have a C corp or you are doing loan out, just reminding you, this is separate than unemployment, but you should be all of your agent fees should be deducted. And I believe actually for 2019, SAG-AFTRA, at least in New York, I don't know if it's the same in California, but I'm guessing they helped push through laws that allowed you to deduct agents fees, but usually because of the way you get your checks, it's not accounted for. So make sure you're accounting for that and saving yourself money.
Yes, they did for the state of California. So
yeah, perfect. Yes. Just a note, adding a tax year column when you're tracking on a spreadsheet never hurts. Thank you for that. When you're working on a weekly rate or a TOS rate, is the last date worked on set the date or the end of the shoot period? My guess is the last day you were physically there, but Katie?
Yep, correct.
Cool. I'm becoming an expert. Please, Evan, say that site app again. I think you're talking about what Wave Apps, WAVEAPPS.com is the one that I use for accounting. I do it for my companies and personal. But if you want to be more exacting, Katie's is great. You can do notes and tweak Wave Apps, but yeah. Can you repeat the software name? Well, that was the one. If not, if there's another one. Can you just use the name on your check stub when the check arrives if you don't have your call sheet or contact for payroll name? Katie's saying yes and nodding her head. You got to address combo, gig, and entertainment work. To complicate things,
I think we should just move on from anything that asks about a C corp or an S corp. Like,
yep.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Do you state contract work or self when you report 1099 money?
You are your employer when you are self-employed and doing 1099 work.
What if you lost most of your work but still retain one part-time W-2 job working from home? Does that affect how you apply?
Yeah.
You have to report that income, but you will still, depending on how much you're making with that, you'll still get unemployment benefit.
So still, yeah, one of the things that we talked about in New York, New Jersey, the East Coast one, if you've lost income because of it and it is making it hard for you to survive, there's no hurt in applying. So if we claim a chunk as a coach, where do we submit this? Yes, already asked and answered. Thank you guys, no problem. Don't need to ask that as a question. In the next couple of months, there will be no auditions. So keeping track of auditions and directors won't be applicable for some months. Can you talk about filling out looking for work for unemployment?
Yeah, we asked to answer this before, but I want to reiterate it. You're going to get after you fill out like your first page of your certifying for benefits, then you're going to get a second screen that's going to say, what did you do to look for work? Okay. The only time, back when we used to have paper filling out forms, there would be a box checked when you would have to fill out that portion of your EDD paperwork. Now since we're not getting those types of things, you don't have to fill it out unless you've been notified to fill it out. You will get some sort of notification from EDD saying like, we don't believe you or whatever. So you're gonna have to start filling this portion out. For now, you just hit skip. That page comes asking you how you went how you looked for work, you hit skip. But the answer of whether or not you are looking for work, of course you're looking for work. Just because there isn't any work doesn't mean you're not looking for it. You could still look for voiceover work. There's still self-tapes. Your agents are still looking for work for you. You are absolutely still 100% looking for work. There is still work to be had, just very, very little of it. So yes, you're still looking for work. Yes, you still want to keep track in case they do ask you those things. But if they don't, and most of us, the vast majority of us, they're never going to ask you to fill that stuff out. So just hit skip.
I just want to bounce something off what Katie said. There's going to be a question when you're filling out your biweekly benefits amounts that's going to say, was there any reason you were not able to accept full-time employment at this time? And the question, I mean, if you're sick, because that's another one of the questions is like, were you sick and unable to look for work or go to work, then fine. But it's not you that's stopping you from getting jobs. It's COVID. So there's nothing that's stopping you from getting those jobs. So just remember, no.
And if you have a part-time job and you're like, oh, but it's not your part-time job that's keeping you from work, because if
Right.
you're the type of actor that I assume most of us are, our part-time jobs are just, they're not real jobs. Like we tell them, hey, I'm taking this full-time job. Like I quit this moment and I'm taking this full-time job. None of us are working these types of jobs that aren't allowing us, or that we wouldn't quit for a full-time gig. So.
And to remind everyone, there is a PDF in the drive that goes step by step how to answer all of these questions, including like actor is not listed, you're a private sector employee, blah, blah, blah.
Cool, which actually was one of the questions, which I can now say is answered. Again, jumping to W-2 versus 1099, when it comes out, you'll see, we don't know exactly what form it will take. All right, what if the work I booked in Los Angeles, I booked the work in Los Angeles, but shot out of the country? I'm assuming that it's where the pay company comes from?
Yeah.
Not necessarily where the payroll company comes from, because, for example, a lot of us are paid out of payroll companies in Chicago, but where it's California income. So I'm not 100% sure on that. I've worked out of the country before and had to actually pay income taxes in that. I don't know. You might want to talk to somebody who's more experienced than the four of us.
I think also on your pay stub, it'll say what taxes were taken out and to whom. So like California SDI, all of those taxes are going to be listed on there. And if you see that it's California, it's going to be California. If you work,
Yeah, and just to reiterate, SAG-AFTRA does have actual staff that are focused, can answer these questions because of COVID and their focus. They're very diminished in their ability to like answer all of the questions. But staff reached out to us today because they know we are doing this webinar and said any specific questions we don't know, to remind everybody, you can call the union and they have people there to help with these questions. So for that one, call don't pay a CPA, call the union, and it might take a little while to get back to you, but they'll have an answer from a professional. In addition,
oh, I just want to think about something, mention something before I forget. There's while you're filling out your unemployment stuff and you're certifying for benefits, there's an opportunity to save as a draft on the bottom of your screen. As you're filling that stuff up, periodically save as a draft so that if you do get kicked off, your stuff is still on there, because it can be a real bitch. So just,
if you're an editor, you've already done this with your editing software. You constantly save so that you never lose anything.
Save as draft.
All right. My husband and I are both SAG-AFTRA actors, and we also have a studio where we teach acting as well. Our acting obviously dried up, but we've also lost a lot of our students at our studio as well. Can we apply for unemployment even if we are still getting disbursements from our studio?
I think I'm going to answer that. If you guys are employees at your studio, then and you still have some work, but not like full time, you should still be able to get some supplemental help from the EDD.
Also, that might be part-time income instead of full-time income, right? So it's just going to depend on what you're making. And also just make sure, acting schools are not an essential business. So make sure that any business you are conducting is in fact virtually online and not in person, that you're not having students come in. for any reason. So just keep that in mind.
And on top of that, I know part of the CARES Act was for small businesses affected by it. We don't know exactly how that will be addressed, but if your studio counts as a small business, you should also possibly look into what is there.
Quick note I got from my friend Miller Ty. He said that at 2 a.m. the website crashes. So they something like that. So it's like you want to file between 2 a.m. and 10 p.m. or something. Oh, it does not crash. It says, oh, you can file from 2 a.m. to 10 p.m. Oh, and there's less crashing at 2 a.m. That's what he's saying.
Be a night owl.
Still save his draft though. Still save his draft.
One of the recommendations from the East Coast was when you wake up all stressed out because you couldn't get through to the unemployment through the website, that is the best time to probably try and get through, because it'll be the middle of the night and nobody will be applying. All right. If I made a lot of money in the last quarter of last year, but little this quarter, how do I make that benefit myself the most? So the way you apply, as best my understanding, they take the best quarter that you work. So you're okay.
Yep.
Anybody disagree? Nope.
Nope, good.
I just had an EDD claim in California complete in January and got a hospitality parallel job that I started and worked a week before the state lockdown. I'm still auditioning for voiceover work and I'm a union member. How do I apply?
I think we've already talked about this.
Yeah, just apply, just do it.
I filed for the first time a few days ago. Was I supposed to receive any kind of confirmation? How do I see if my claim is open?
You will. It's just going to take a couple weeks. It's taking like 2 weeks now. It used to be like a week, but now it's a couple of weeks. So just be patient. It's coming. You'll get something in the mail. It will say, an envelope will say time sensitive material, and you'll get like a little packet, and a whole bunch of stuff will come in the mail. And but it's just taking longer because more people are applying.
Katie, you look really pretty. I didn't tell you that before, but you look very pretty.
You look
What about me?
It's the lighting. It's natural lighting.
Yeah.
Alan, we can see you. You know, that's okay.
I didn't shave, I didn't shower. I don't care. Whatever.
All right. This is just sort of general. How can we get stubs from payroll in case we don't have them?
I can answer that. You can just contact the payroll company. There's going to be usually an email address or a phone number. Although if you don't have the pay stub, you just need to know who the payroll company is, and then just call the payroll company.
And new lesson from now on, we keep our pay stubs.
Always.
From now on, everybody on this call from now on is going to keep their pay stubs.
Hot
because
tip.
I didn't just donate my time for y'all not to follow through with this crap.
Also Google
hot
Photos. You can create an album that is called Pay Stub, and every pay stub, you take a picture, upload to it, and then you have it. And I think I just stole Giselle's thing. I'm sorry if that.
No, you didn't. But what I was going to say is Katie and I, one of her agents, I am rep with a different part of that agency, and they, for some reason, when you do direct deposit, send you a disbursement remittance or something like that. But they don't send you your pay stub unless you ask for it. So you can always ask your agent if you're on direct deposit to upload and send you your pay stub.
You also need keep in mind though that because agencies are working out of their offices right now, like for example, that shared agent right now is unable to send us those stubs. So things might be a little wonky for now while people are working out of their homes. But yes, for the future, always make sure you're getting a copy of that original pay stub, not just the stub attached to the check from your agent.
And real quick, when you're applying, again, it's going to have a list of all of your employers that you've worked for, and it'll list it out like this. You should have the amounts of money you've worked as well, and you'll be able to go through that and be like, oh, obviously it has to be this one because this is the only stub that I don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And just a reminder, yes, there are 8 slots for employers. If you have more, that's okay. They will still base it off of the total. Just put them all in. If I start a claim today but finish in a couple days, does it count for first quarter of 2020 when I started, or count according to when I complete the claim?
It's when the claim is completed is the date you applied, right?
So when it's completed.
That's what I thought, but then Alan was saying the day that you apply for your claim.
Yes, the day that you have finished applying, right? So as long as you're like saving draft and not hitting the final submit, right? So when you submit it.
Yeah.
So it's
save draft.
So
save
to
draft.
clarify, it's not when you start the application, it's when you submit the application, not when you are approved.
Correct.
So if you are working on it, but you don't finish it until the next quarter, then it is the next quarter. So if you don't want that, finish it quick.
And also, if you look at period, it might behoove you to really finish it before the end of tomorrow. So look at your pay and make sure, because you might have a year back that's a nice high quarter. So don't miss this opportunity to either apply at the end of this quarter or the beginning of next, because that's where we are right here on March 30th, right? You got one more day to have that look period count for maybe that far back quarter.
Okay. Any clue on how to get your password reset? Been locked out.
No.
That's tech support of the site, and that's your best luck. Unfortunately. Don't need to do that. First the top, but it's not there for some reason.
A tip from that answer just came to me from Miller Ty. He said you can actually register again with the same email, because and then that will allow you to get a new password, because the password reset function does not work, he says. So just re-register with the same email address. It looks like you'll be able to do it. Thanks, Miller.
Thanks, Miller Ty.
Miller Ty.
Oh, I don't. Okay, well, I'm gonna pose this one. It's long, but I don't know how to answer it. Okay, I have a pandemic unemployment assistant question. Oh yeah, I'm an actor, but haven't had any acting jobs in a couple of years. Still have some residuals coming in, which EDD is considering as income. However, the majority of my income the last couple of years has been as an independent contractor for a company a friend of mine owns. He had to furlough me, and I don't want to apply for unemployment insurance, saying he's my employer because he could get in trouble. I want to file under the PUA, but can't seem to find out how to do that anywhere. I'm
going to answer this and say, I don't know why he'd get in trouble unless he was not sending 1099s out. If he was, he won't get in trouble. He pays for it. You pay for it, as like you pay into it. So I would just apply.
And if you have any, like, again, even if you had a day of 1090 or of W-2 work, that counts in there, and that will activate your residuals as well.
This one says, if all of your work was in CA, apply in CA even though you live in New York. If you have earnings in both CA and New York, apply a multi-state claim in New York, as New York has a higher benefit amount.
We talked about this, yeah.
Thank you for that. Answered. Blah.
I'm reading the one on below it from Pat. Sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that. So California does not tax unemployment. Other states are different. So the pandemic UI, the federal, the extra $600. Okay, go ahead, Katie.
This is really important, right? Your state isn't going to tax it, but the federal government is going to tax it. It's still income. So in California, you're allowed to, there's a box that you can check that will say, do you want us to withhold 10%? They'll withhold it. Withhold it. They will withhold 10% toward your tax payment, okay? But keep in mind, you may be a higher tax bracket than 10%. You may be a 24% tax bracket. You will owe taxes on that at the end. So you might want to guesstimate which tax bracket you fall into, maybe base it off of last year or previous year, and you're going to want to not spend an additional portion of your EDD money so that you can pay those taxes down the road if you're not great with money or not great at budgeting. Okay, so that 10%, make sure you're likely going to be in a higher tax bracket than that. So you're going to want to keep in that, basically what you can do is, like, you know, Lavs lives in that Bank of America bank account. Always keep, don't transfer all of it out to your regular bank account, so that you're keeping some in there for taxes.
That's smart.
I know.
Done. Not everyone qualifies for 26 weeks, so it won't be 9 months for everyone. I don't know.
Everyone their claim should last still the same duration. It's just a matter of how quickly you spend it.
Again, the claim is for a year. okay? It's just in 26 payments and then 13-week payments, but that doesn't really mean anything. It's just try to think of it in that year chunk, is why I was saying about that bank account thing. And it's just the max you can get at any particular week is that 26-week, 13-week max. That's the max you could pull out any week. But if you can't pull out one of those weeks because you've made other money, you had some residuals come in or whatever, had a part-time gig that paid really well, it just moves that money to the next week where you're able to claim it. And it stays intact for that year the claim is open.
Sorry, I wanted to say this earlier and I totally forgot. When you are reporting your income for residuals or your session in California on the little portal, if you've made more than $1,000, only write 99999. 999.99. Do not put more than that. Thank you. That's all.
Very good.
Just answering a quick question that's down there. I said Google Photos, not Google Pay Stubs. Google Photos, if you take a picture and then use Google Photos to keep track of it, was just that quick one answer. Jumping up. I'm working at a grocery store right now for a last employer. Do I put the grocery store or talent services?
Store.
Grocery store? Is that?
Store. Yeah,
If
the store.
that's the last person that paid you.
Okay.
Yep. Store.
I applied for unemployment last week prior to when this new bill is passed. Income was taken into consideration. You don't need to apply again. It'll be retroactively applied, is our understanding. But wait for news. Because of AB5, the ED is doing those outreach audits to freelancers, but I guess we will have to wait until the pandemic UI questions get settled. Okay, yes. I've been here, okay. Don't understand how to report residuals in terms of hours and hourly rate. It is part of your, go ahead.
You don't really, right? Residuals is just, they're not going to ask you your hourly rate for residuals. They will though on work. And the way to do it with work is to just take your day rate and divide it by 8, right? Because it's an 8-hour day. So you don't have to worry about, you know, just take the session rate and divide it by 8 hours. And that's your hours worked. That's another thing where it's like, it doesn't really matter. That's not a question that they really care about the answer to. So don't worry about it too much. I just take the day rate and divide it by 8.
And that's
residuals, they're not, it's not a thing.
in the YouTube video on the EDD for EDD that's in the Google Drive on the doc. It's pasted, the URL is pasted, and we also pasted it in the chat earlier here. It goes over all of this and how to do it and where to fill it out and what to divide it by.
If you worked in Oregon and California, can you apply for unemployment in both states? So my understanding is you can only apply in one state, correct? So choose whichever one is better for you.
Yep.
The flowchart does not, yes, 1099, we will figure that out, asked and answered. Okay, so before a stay-at-home hit, I started a 1099 gig that is now on hold indefinitely. Does that count as my last day work, or would it still be my last session's shoot day?
I think those are separate things. When you're applying for unemployment as an employee, your last day will be on the day that you're an employee, and when you're a 1099, that's your last day as a 1099 worker.
Do you have to be a citizen or green card holder to get unemployment? I have a working visa.
No, so what I said before, I think this should be in the doc, you're gonna need to have your visa paperwork or whatever you get from the government just with you when you're applying, because I'll probably ask you for some information on that.
Sorry, just responding to one, boom, okay. How do you calculate hours on residuals? Talked about that. If you're receiving unemployment, can we apply for paid family leave as well to care for children who are at home from school? Usually that would be a no, but didn't know if that changed.
I don't think so. I still think that's for like little baby children, but pregnancy, right, Katie?
This would be our beyond our knowledge base, and ask a CPA or search online for somebody who
Or
is,
ask someone with kids. I don't have kids, so I don't know. So another parent might just have that information.
I mean, if you
That you know of, Katie.
if you're on Facebook and wanted to
Fair.
post that question under this video, maybe somebody else on the page could answer it. Where can I apply for the $600? It is automatically applied with thing. Do I have to file taxes before I apply? You have to file taxes at some point. You don't have to file 2019, but if you have not done 2019 or 2018, I feel like you might have an issue, but let me know.
No.
You're talking about two different things. The $600 is with unemployment. The thing about filing your taxes has to do with the lump sum payment that they're sending out to individuals. $1,200 to individuals, $2,400 to married couples. That is based on your taxes from either 2019 if you've already filed them, or if you have not filed them, your 2018. So here's another instance where it may behoove you to either file or not file to get that money, right? So if your last year taxes, you made more and you weren't going to qualify, but this, if you've done 2019 taxes, you want to file those, and vice versa. Does that make sense? So we're at a place right now where, because you don't have to file now until July. So if you file 2019 and you made a crap ton of money in 2019, you wouldn't get it, then don't, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I know what you mean. I pick up what you're putting down.
You buy what I'm selling? Okay.
Where can I find those forms to apply? I believe that's edd.ca.gov. Is that correct?
Yep.
Cool. What drive are you referring to? Step-by-step instructions. There is a Google Drive doc, or a Google Drive folder that is posted in the chat. I've posted a few times, but I will post it again. In addition, it is on the Facebook page, but I am posting it again right now. That is just
a lot of the like the fact sheets about what's going on with COVID-19 are also on the SAG-AFTRA COVID website. The website,
which is also just reposted. Do S and C corps count as small businesses? Yes, I mean, depending on how big it is or how small it is. Yes, it is a business. It is a corporation.
Yeah.
When we get our first letter from the EDD, that paper form to fill out and snail mail back, I think we also get a package and an account number.
Yeah. Okay, don't fill it out. Just do it online. It all used to be paper. They still send us the paper, even though we don't actually fill it out on paper anymore. I don't know why the hell they do this. It seems like a total waste. I guess because some people don't have access, although you could go to your library or something like that to get access to the internet. But many people don't have access to the internet or to an electronic device. So it would be great if we could opt out, but you're still gonna get those paper forms. Just put them in your filing cabinet just to have or whatever, or shred them and fill out all the paperwork online.
If they are closed tomorrow, does quarterly end today? They're closed today and it ends tomorrow, right?
No, they're closed tomorrow.
Oh, they're closed tomorrow. Oh.
And also, quarters have nothing to do with holidays. It's still a quarter. It's still the month. So
you can fill out, as long as you fill out the application online, you're good. They just won't be it'll be processed a day or two slower.
Yeah, and like they have all of this information. We're just like verifying it. So we can't trick them. We can't change anything. It's just verification.
Cool. We have 6 left. This is amazing. We did it. Back to the pandemic, unemployment assistance option. Is the EDD updated to take 1099 income into consideration? Not yet. It is, again, legislation happened Friday. It has been now about 24 hours, business days, 1 full business day since it was enacted. Once it is enacted, it still needs to be translated from the bill to actually applicable rules. Those have yet to be done. No more adding questions, please, just because we're running out. I just saw that. Get away. What did Giselle say about inputting 999, not 1,000?
So when you are filling out your benefit certification bi-weekly, it's going to ask you, did you work this week? If you did, or you received residuals. If the amount that you received exceeds $1,000, only put 999.99. It is the way they compute things. You'll screw them up. It'll be confused. The EDD tells you the same thing. Just put 999.99 if collectively your income is for that week is over $1,000.
Cool. That is a great thing to know. Do we need to apply for the $1,200 federal stimulus package payment? That is separate than this? I do not believe so.
No, but again, what I was saying about taxes they're going to go off of 2019 or 2018.
Know how much you make.
Or you could just sell some stocks you have right now at a huge loss, and that'll offset it. Kidding. Invest now because they're all doing badly.
Invest a little bit.
Thanks, Alan.
That's Ed. If you have some money, just side note, invest in some technology stocks in China because they'll eventually go back up huge. Do past residuals go into how much we earn that quarter and therefore help to ensure we get maximum 405 weekly amount?
Yes.
Cool. That's an answer.
So this was for the $1,200. You don't need to apply for the $1,200. The $600 you also don't need to apply for. It'll be automatically bumped on once you apply for unemployment.
But you have to apply for unemployment to get the bump.
Correct.
$600. That $600 applies specifically to your unemployment amount. Therefore, if you don't qualify for unemployment, you do not get that money. Last one. If we have a course apply for that small business relief and get CARE Act and EDD, is that double dipping or triple dipping? Thank you. The corp, we don't know exactly how small business relief is happening, but my understanding is if you have a corp, especially S Corp, C Corp, technically your corporation is separate from you as the employee, even though you are the owner of it. Therefore, the things that would apply to that small business apply to that small business. The things that apply to you as an individual apply to you as an individual. There will not be unemployment pay to a company, because a company, regardless of what election laws say,
they're not people. They're not people.
Companies are not.
Violet Green.
Therefore, the company stuff, the ones that I've heard, I know in New York there was a Senate law passed related to if a small business is having trouble paying rent on their location. And I also know there's things passed about, for in New York, renters having trouble paying their rent and things with that. If you live in your place, then you are not a company living there. That is a person. So, so to answer that question, it will not be double dipping because it is not a Venn diagram that crosses over. They will be separate.
I just want to say quickly, thanks everyone for coming and joining us. We are not professionals. We are not staff members of SAG-AFTRA. We are also not EDD staff. We are members who have done this before, have filed successfully, continue to file successfully, and want you to file successfully. And I think what we've learned here, we can all agree, apply. Let them tell you that you don't get it. Don't count yourself out. Just like with an audition, you walk in there and you do your thing. You don't count yourself out before you go into the room. So apply, get your money, get your loans, take care of yourselves, and you know what? Get that money and be on vacation. Let's be on vacation for 2 months. Have a cocktail. It's 6 o'clock.
It's not 6 o'clock
Thank
where
you
I am.
so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, well, I'm gonna, yes, so we answered.
Thank you, Evan.
I just want to say, we answered 114 questions and covered 147 asked questions. So almost 150 questions. I want to give a big shout out, thank you to Giselle, Alan, and Katie for doing this. You know, one of the things that the good things that have come out of this pandemic is the support that we as members rise up and support each other, that we come up with ways to spread the knowledge and help each other out and be there for each other. This is hopefully going to be one of many webinars that we are aiming to do. Again, we are not staff, but we know they are overwhelmed. Other thing I wanted to reiterate that I did on the East Coast one, if you are calling unemployment and you get through, or if you're calling SAG-AFTRA and you get through, remember, those staff people are not the source of your frustration. They are working probably continuously from when they wake up and start every minute until they're done with their job, their day, and they're trying to help as many people as possible. So honor that, respect that. I mean, in our industry, especially with so many friends who have been in the service industry, we know what it's like to have a less than friendly person who takes something out on you that you have no control over. So remember that. Remember, you know, we do a lot more with love than with anger and hate. And especially in this time where we don't get to see each other, we get to see each other and interact visually. And hopefully for those at home who have felt like they've missed some human contact, I'll nerd out with Robert Putnam's Bowling Alone, that we feel like we've been separating over time. Hopefully this interaction has helped you put a smile on your day. Yeah. I look forward starting to put together a panel on best practices for self-tapes. So that'll be coming out sometime soon.
Also, I'd love to just say, Evan, thank you for putting this together, having it stream online. Giselle, thank you for organizing this whole thing, but the technical aspect, I didn't have to deal with any of it, so thanks.
And somebody asked if we would share our Instagram handles. I'm like, I don't even know what mine is.
Yes, I'm at Katie Von Till. Follow me.
I'm at Gisellarella, like Cinderella, but with Giselle.
I'm at Alan Starzinski. Have fun figuring out how to spell that.
Well,
It's
okay,
on
mine,
the bottom of your screen.
I'm at E Zeitgeist. So
Yeah.
E and the word Zeitgeist.
And just one, I wanted to say maybe two more things and then I'll end off. One, we are our union. Members are our union. If you want to see some change, we get to be the change we want to see. This was made up of me, Evan, and Alan going through email, trying to figure out how we can be of service. It's a great time to be of service because we're not working. Thank you, Katie. And the other thing I want to say is I know many were asking about dues relief. There is stuff that was just announced today about how there is dues relief. I think that it's going to be postponed. The stuff that's due now will be postponed to July, and then the other half will be postponed to like October or something. So look out for that on the SAG-AFTRA page. You'll have more info. And everything that you see on SAG-AFTRA's website has been legally verified. So that's where you want to get your info from. That's
and for the love of God, open and read your email from the union.
Yes.
Now more than ever, it's pertinent information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when you get those emails saying like, focus on this legislation, please send letters, please email, please call. Another bit of information from when Gabrielle talked to Nancy Pelosi, Nancy mentioned how strong the union is in communication on social media and in contacting their representatives, that has a huge effect. And one of the things hopefully this focus on digital change will give us is an understanding on how easy it is, given our technological time, to do something really quick. And we have got 160,000 members. If we get 50%, which would be an insanely high number, 80,000 people messaging representatives about something, they like, there's nothing we can't do.
I have to add one thing. If you have not registered to vote from home, absentee ballot, register now. We have no idea what the future holds, but the way that we affect change is by voting. I don't care what you're voting for, just register to get your absentee ballot mailed to your home so that you can vote. Oh, look at that.
And that is it for tonight. Thank you guys. Thank you, panelists, for being here for almost 2.5 hours. Thank you guys for asking the questions and sharing this. The video will be up on Facebook. It's on now, but it will continue to be there. And we'll post it to like a Vimeo or YouTube just for other access for people who don't want to, sell their soul to the devil that is the Facebook corporation.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Yeah.
Be safe. Wash your hands.